So what we're going to do is start out with this really plain and basic Confluence page using just the standard tools available within the platform and turn it into something that's far more likely to get engagement from your audience, which leads to greater information retention, knowledge utilization. So it's about using all of the macros that we have available to us on content formatting macros of Confluence to turn it into this page. So it's exactly the same content, but it's using all of those tools that we have available to us to ensure that it's improving on a design perspective, a functionality perspective, but also a structure perspective. So let's just go straight into it. So we'll kick off with numbered headings. So that's the tool we're going to use first. The reason we're using it first is because instantly it's going to recognize what headings you've used on your page, and it's going to give them the numbered headings that we want. So you've got options between choosing the number format that you want it to go to. I'm just going to go with decimal. You can see the preview on the left hand side, but you've also got the option to skip any headings that you don't want to change. So it looks like nothing's happened. You can see that little notifications come up. All you need to do is refresh the page and you can see instantly it's added those numbered heading references. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and edit the page next, and we're going to start adding those individual macros. So all you need to do is type / and then the name of the macro tool that you need, and then it will pop up upon this list. The other way that you can go about doing it, if you're not sure of the name, is start typing content formatting, and then you'll see all of the macros that you have available to you. Another way is hitting that plus on the top bar, searching again for the app content formatting macros, or you can go to the view more option, look in the Confluence content. You'll likely see all of the tools that you have available to us, the many macros that we have, and you can use the search functionality as well. The best way that I like to do it is doing the / option, and the first macro that I'm going to add is a recently added macro, the interactive banner feature. So this allows you to add like a sliding banner to the very top of the page, or you can just add one slide and it will just be a really lovely nicely presented banner depending on how you want to use it. Another feature that wasn't too long ago that we added was the ability to utilize the stock library from Pexels. So I use this feature a lot. I just go in and grab an image that's relevant to what I'm trying to do. And you've got different ways that you can manipulate it. You can have it in its original size, you can resize it to fit the container, and in this example it's expanded to fit the proportions of the banner that I have. So what I'll be doing is I'm jumping back and forward between the original page, just so that I'm utilizing all of the content that we have. So what I've done so far is I've added the title, the body and the button. So you'll see with every banner you've got the option to have a combination of those three. You don't just have to have all of them, you don't have to have one of them. You can really kind of mix it up depending on what you want to do. Naturally, you've got the link option, so you can use a link internally, so you can grab a page from your Confluence instance and link directly to that, or there's no problem with also adding an external link and even choosing to make it open in another tab. So I'm pretty much there with my first tab. You can add multiple tabs up to 6. So it's easy to delete and add them as you go. You start with a default of 3, but it's entirely up to you. So as I said before, I'm getting rid of button. I don't need that for this particular instance. And I'm going back to my Pexels library to find another kind of jungle themed related image. And this time I've settled on a river based idea. What I love about this, it's really flexible. So you'll see throughout this video that I'll be using it in multiple different ways. At the very top of the page, I'm using the slideshow version. The other side to this is that you've got really handy inbuilt filters. So you've got the light mode and you've got the dark mode. Typically a lot of the images work really great on the dark mode, but there are going to be plenty of examples that you can use for the light mode, especially if you're utilizing an image that you're uploading yourself. So what I also like about a lot of our macro tools, or in fact all of our macro tools, you have that really handy preview step. So you do get a sense of what you're actually building out before you actually see it on the page and you have to update. And that's the way that we'll be working this video, is that you'll see that you won't see the final results until the very end. So definitely make sure you watch the full video. So at this point I'm just choosing which mountain range looks best for my text, and I think for this example where I kind of want the light theme, I've landed on a kind of a lighter mountain scene. So just grabbing again that text, dropping it in, and then I think for this one we're pretty much good to go once I hit save. So we're going to blast through these last steps, just adding a URL to the button, making sure it opens in a new tab and getting rid of the old content. So you will have noticed on the brand new page that I showed you at the start of the video, it was housed in kind of this really nice shade of beige to kind of just house that content, and that's utilizing the background macro. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. You'll see that I'll be using the background macro multiple times in this video. In the first time you'll see it here, I'm just using one single color, and that's from a preset. So you can set up that preset yourself. You can choose from your own brand colors whenever you need to. In this example, I'm choosing not to have any rounded corners, and then all I'm doing here is just dropping that interactive banner macro that we created and then putting it inside the background macro, making sure it goes full width, so it creates that really kind of impactful mainstay at the very top of your content page. Now straight back to the background macro, but this time I'm going to utilize the ability to add an image instead of just one single color. So again, we'll utilize that pixel library, try and find an image that really works, but on this occasion I've got a lot of text to put on top of it. The beauty of it is though that I've got a lot of control about how that image displays, about the transparency of the image and how it works alongside a background color as well. So I found this really lovely picture of a leaf, which I think will provide the perfect background. I'm just setting the background color to be this kind of really dark color, and now I can adjust the opacity of that background image. So you can see it kind of layers up. I'm trying to get it right, around 41% works great, and then when I change it to the font size, font color being white, you can see it looks really great. And you've got tons of other options with the background macro. You can choose to have rounded corners. You can choose the actual width of your background macro, so it doesn't necessarily need to appear 100% width of your layout. And you have the option to decide how you want your text to appear on the page, whether you want it left aligned, right aligned, or centered. And then lastly, you've got the option to choose a particular height for your background macro as well. So tons of parameters. I'm happy with what I've set up so far. And then the final stage is making sure that the content I want to appear on that background is actually placed within the background macro itself. So all good to go. Now, the next macro that I want to show you is the button macro. So you've got standardized links within Confluence, but what this does is it turns those into actual buttons, which are far more likely to receive the sort of engagement that you would like them to have. So you can see you've got tons of options again with this macro, and you've got the preview here. So you can choose between adding a internal link or a link that goes directly to one of your Confluence instance pages. So for example, that's what I'm choosing here. Again, you've got the option to opening a new tab. You've got the option to choose how it aligns on the page, and then you've got some additional options. So again, you can change the color, set it to those presets that you have. You've also got the option to pick a color from the basic default setup that you have available directly within the app. But what I really love about one of the new additions we have to buttons is that you can add an icon to the app that gives you that greater sense of context. So for example, Canopy Vision, I've been able to find an eye icon that I think works great and adds that additional layer of context. So we'll speed through this next section. I'm adding another background macro, nothing that you haven't seen already before in this video, but you can never have too many background macros, so you'll see me adding these a lot to the page. I'm adding them here again, but this time I'm utilizing the copy and paste feature. So you can see I found that really nice leafy background, copied that across 3 times, and that means that I can put all of these kind of mini profiles in and on top of them. We're going to go back to the interactive banner macro now, but use it in a slightly different way. So instead of using the slideshow version that you saw at the very top of the page, all I'm going to do this time is utilize one slide. And this is going to give me a really nice, impactful title at the very point of which I need it in this page. In this example, I need a koala bear, and you can see what I think is great about this preview option is you can see this is not the best photo to use to represent my koala in this instance. Have I found a better one? Yeah, I think this one is going to work better, especially when I'm able to play around with the options. So again, I'm going to use the option to resize to fill container, jump back, grab my content. What have I got here? So don't compromise on quality. Again, really sorry for these puns, or is that the first time I've apologised for the puns? You'll be seeing a lot of them. Dropping it into the page, and then I'm changing how it appears. So I'm utilising that dark mode again, and then removing the body and button. So perfect, there I've got a really, again, nice title to start introducing the next content. Now, a new macro that we haven't used yet in this video is the tab option, and this is a macro that's undergone a major redevelopment recently, so definitely jump in and see any of the new features if you haven't used it in a while or it's your first time using it. One of the best new features is, again, utilizing icons, and this adds, again, greater context and greater visual cues to your page. On this example, I'm using something to signify it's the first tab, and that's really important because with the new way that you use tabs, the first tab, you set out the parameters that means that every tab will follow that style preference. So me on here, I've got kind of like that green tealy color. That means that that shade will actually be replicated in all of the future tabs. And now I'm choosing how I like it to appear. You can see I had the option there between vertical and horizontal. I chose it to be vertical in this instance, but again, you can choose it how you'd like. If you do choose the horizontal option, you also have the option to make sure that the title of it, the top of it, is sticky, so that you don't lose that context when you're looking at a tab, especially when you've got a ton of content within a tab, which I think is quite common for how we utilize this feature internally within our team. So all I'm doing now is I'm going through each of those tabs. I'm duplicating, that means that it's keeping, all I'm doing is duplicating it just so that it's for ease of use. But as I say, all of the design features and how it will display has all been controlled within that first example. This time I'm just adding it to the page, but it will recognize that that button there, that tick box there, is it the first tab, isn't ticked, so it will reference the information that's been provided in that first tab. So you can see I'm just going through, adding each of them in, and then copy and pasting all of my content that was originally on the page into that tab so that it's pretty much ready to go. Adding in, I'm going to add about 4 or 5 in here. I think this is tab 4. Then going to go and find my icon set. You can see it's called filter, so that will pop up there, but you've got plenty of icons to choose from depending on what you're trying to say. So it's really endless really what you can do, and I think on this example I've named them tabs 1, 2, 3, 4, but on this occasion I want to just paste an image in, so I'm going to look out for that same style under the filter banner, and then you can see there's one that is more better, it's a better use, or it's a better icon that represents that I've just popped an image in there. So that is tabs. Now, this is the second time I think we've apologized about the number of puns on this page, but now we're going to show you another macro called Tooltip. So what this does, it can help you provide extra context on the page without actually having to have that content built into the page itself. So what I'm having to do here is I'm putting that information that was originally on the page and putting it within the macro, and then that little blue eye will pop up, which means that anyone reviewing that page, and you'll see this when I show the finished results at the end, can click that little blue eye and then they'll see that information displayed to them. So that was tooltips, but now we want to talk about footnotes. So this is a really useful macro to help you create references within your page. So all you need to do, again, / type in the macro footnotes on this occasion, and then you've got a simple entry box to put in the information that you need. So on this example, we didn't want to use those brackets. We're trying to provide that extra context, but you can imagine using this in a real life scenario where you've got a reference point. You don't want to put it at the within your content. You maybe want to reference it at the bottom of the page. Well, now you can do that within Confluence. So all you need to do is create that footnote, and then at the very bottom of the page, you need to create a footnote summary, and automatically it will gather all of the footnotes that you've created throughout the page and will summarize them there for you. So if you create one footnote, it will be footnote 1. If you create the second one, it will be 2. It will automatically give them those numbers depending on how you've used them. So it's a really useful feature. So moving quickly on, we have the pop-up dialog feature. So this is a triggered pop-up that can appear depending on how you want to trigger it onto the page. But what it will do is it will mean that it can provide a pop-up onto the page styled in the way that you want it to appear for your users. So on this example, I've got a joke which looks rubbish on the page, just plainly set to how it is, but the way that I want it to appear is by clicking a button, then you'll get the actual joke itself. So why is it no good tricking a jungle bird? Is because 2 can play at that game. So if you click that button that has that information onto it, then you can appear, have the content appear. So I've chosen the title to be the punchline itself, and now I'm going to drop the little toucan bird in there as well. So a really easy way to add another piece of information onto your page in a more intuitive and more engaging way. So just quickly blasting through a macro that you've already seen me use before, the interactive banner macro. In this instance, I'm again creating a really impactful title. Originally went with just the title, but you can see there I've missed out the body. So we're going to grab that and go back into the macro itself. And that means that I can just show you how easy it is to update your macro. So you can see here just the title, adding in body. You've got that new dialog option pop up, and now I can add in that extra information, delete that original content. So what I'm doing now is adding one of the features that I add a lot of the time is the card macro. And this is a great way of displaying content or linking to content in a really kind of engaging and intuitive way. So you can see here I've got 3 lines here, obviously from The Lion King, Hakuna Matata. Now I'm providing extra image context to those descriptions. So I'm just quickly looking for an image of a meerkat. Again, the pixel library never fails. But the card macro itself, you can see what I showed you at the top there is that you've got 3 different options in how you want to display a card macro. You can display it horizontally, you can display it vertically, or you can choose a simple format. And the option that I've gone here is the vertical format, which means that it displays in this nice way where you've got that image and then the information underneath it. I'm just duplicating it across as I want them to appear 3 in a row, and then I'm going back in and just changing some of the settings to what I've already set up. So I'm going back into that library, choosing a different image and then placing it on top of it. Additionally, with the card macro is that you can also link them to other areas of the site, your Confluence instance, or you can also link them to an external place as well. And they really do carry a lot of engagement. So it is a really useful tool to do what you need to do in terms of trying to steer people through your content. And what I also like is what you'll see is very common with a lot of the macros that you'll see is the really plentiful options that you have in terms of customizing the style to your preference and how it appears against other macros on the page. So now going in, adding in my 3rd card macro, see if you can guess which animal I still need to add here from my Hakuna Matata trio. Yeah, of course, it's the lion cub. Need to track one down. Perfect. That is going to be exactly what I need. So just going in again, adding in a 3rd colorway. So we've added in the teal, the beige, and now going in with another color as well, making sure the text appears right on it, and brilliant. We've got our 3 characters there, and means we can get rid of what was there originally. So delete that, and there we go. So we've got the card macro in play. And next up we have LaTeX formatting for the mathematicians amongst us. So this is a formatting macro, a document preparation system and mathematical language that means you can convert it to HTML. It's useful for displaying mathematical and scientific equations on the page, and you can format it in a certain style, and we're using the parameters that are available with you in the tool. So if you know the LaTeX language, this is great because we have a macro available to you, which means that you can actually display your formulas and your scientific equations directly within your Confluence instance. So here I'm just grabbing some pre-written LaTeX and then formatting it into the macro itself. So just pasting it into that dialog box, and then you'll see you get a little preview here, which is really handy to know that it's working. And then you can see the preview actually within the edit feature as well. The next thing I'm going to do, again, it's a very common thing that I keep doing, is adding in a background macro. So what I'm doing here is just inserting the background macro into each of those sections and then putting in the LaTeX macro within them. So moving really at a fast pace here, again, utilizing the interactive banner macro, I've moved on to a new section. So again, it needs a really impactful title. So quickly finding in an image that relates to what I'm trying to say. So in this instance, I need something to say that we're kind of out of the woods and we're moving into a new territory. So again, you can see how well that dark mode works. So here I've got a series of quotes, but before we do that, I'm utilizing the background macro, of course. This time I'm using a really lighter version of the image because I want some dark text to appear on top of it. So I'm seeking out a water droplet. I think this is going to be really great. And then for the page itself, again, utilizing it on white and then just changing the opacity until I'm happy that that text really displays clearly. So copy and paste and drop that information in. And you can see the information that I have dropped in is actually a series of quotes. What I'm doing here is going to utilize another macro that we haven't seen yet. So here I've got, again, some pre-written BibTex. So this is BibTex. This is going to mean that we can create some more detailed references on the page that gives us way more context than just the simple footnotes that you saw me add before. But the behavior of it is using the BibTex style referencing method. So I've already created some in the past, and now I'm just copying and pasting them into the boxes that I have. So you can see within the dialog box here, I've got a choice between the placeholder name, whether it's a number or the name of the author, and then I've got two options here, just putting in the reference itself, but then also the author. So the author will be the section that appears live on the page itself. So I'm just copying and pasting all of the pre-written ones I have myself. Thankfully, I'm just going to speed through this process, but you get the point. You'll get that I am able to basically quote and give reference to the individuals that have left those quotes for us. Nearly there. So I think about 3 macros to go. So what the next macro is the button group macro. So you saw me add a button quite far up in the page, but now I want to have 3 buttons appear side by side. So one of the ways that I can do that is create a button group. So firstly, you'll set your preferences for your group, very simple, whether you want it horizontal or whether you want it vertical, and then you can decide how you want it to appear on the page. So a line left, a line right, or you want it centered. So I set it to be centered, and now all I'm doing is adding my buttons to that button group. So I'm starting with my first button. I'm making sure that, again, I want that to appear central, making sure it appears correctly on the page, and then again utilizing the feature of icons. So again, you can see I've got a button that says more quotes. So I need some icon to better represent that. So I've got some quote marks to use. Now I'm duplicating that that button that I've created, putting it in 3 times, which means that some of the preferences and parameters that I've already set, I'm quite happy with, and it means that those are saved when I copy those across. So I'm now adding in my second one. I've got extra wisdom, and for the first time you'll see here that I'm not using an icon specifically. I might go ahead and use an emoji. Couldn't find anything within this or that, so brain is probably the perfect thing to use in terms of wisdom in this context. So I thought the brain emoji would work best for me. Changing up the color, and then perfect, it's already appearing and displaying on the page in the edit mode, so you can kind of see how it's already working. Then for my final button, I've got something that means that adding your own, so naturally the icon here is probably going to be a plus. So I can already see that there's one available to me without even having to search. Then I'm really happy with the color orange. Perfect, can get rid of my old links, and then you can already see it's far more visually engaging and impactful. Next up, we're going back to actually a macro that we used before, the card macro. And I want to show you how you can use it in the 2 other ways that it's available. So the simple method or the horizontal method. So the simple method is just essentially utilizing the great features of the card macro with its kind of like dropped shadow below it, so it really kind of pops out from the page, but just text. So I'm not including an image on this one. So you can see I already had that content there about adaptability, but now alongside that image we have a card macro. So it's actually gonna, appear more visually impactful on that page. Next, I want to show you how to do it utilizing the horizontal method, and that still gives us the ability to include an image. So instead of that vertical instance where the image was taller, I'm looking for a chameleon here so that I can drop him in and make sure that the overall section that I have here has just greater visual cues, and again provides that information with something that references it in more detail. So getting rid of that original content, really blasted through that. You can see how easy it really is to add all sorts of macros to your page. Now I'm moving on to the penultimate macro. So this is my macro for progress bar. So you typically want to use this if you've got a series of pages through a journey, and you want to say, okay, you're at the third step, the fourth step, fifth step, so allowing your users to see where they may be in the stage of where they might be on the site. But on this instance, you see I've kind of got like a food chain example, so from consumer to prey to predator, exactly how it's set up on the page. All I'm doing here is creating my first one, and then you've seen this again, saving those preferences by copying and pasting them. It means that I can utilize those same parameters again and again. However, on this instance, all I need to do is just jump in and change a couple of things. So for the second one, I'm going to change it to consumer for that next stage in the food chain and make sure it's been signified as number 2. Then going into my third one, and just changing it again to be the prey, number 3. But what's also interesting on this one is I'm ticking that current step icon. You can see on the preview it highlights a little bit stronger, but what you will see in the example at the end when I show you that full page, you'll see why that's important, and you can see what impact that makes in the final design. So brilliant, that's all of my progress bar set up. Need to get rid of the original, and then we're pretty much there. We're getting really close, but there's just one more macro that I want to do. So firstly, just going to tidy up the page. One thing I've forgotten to do is add my BibTex reference, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Copy and paste a nice background that I already created for my footnotes. I'm just going to pop that in, so do the copy and paste, here it comes. And there we go, so we've got that on page, and then I'm going to try and find the BibTex summary. So it works in exactly the same way as the footnote summary, in that you don't need to actually do anything. It's automatically going to do it for you based on the information that you've provided. So we're on to the very last macro. So I'm going to go right back to the top of the page, and I'm going to insert the alert macro. So this is a really useful macro that I use a lot when I'm trying to make sure that people are aware that they need to know something about the page. So this would be the first thing they see. So it pops right up, and I'm using it in the example that I want people to know that this page isn't quite finished yet. It's a work in progress. So I'm going to make it appear with an image as well, as an image I found earlier on when we were looking through all these jungle photos. So making sure that people are aware that there's still work to be done. This isn't the finished article. You can make it so that it will dismiss permanently and people won't see it if they have dismissed it and hit that OK button. So we're done. What I want to do is load up the final page and take you through all of the features that we've added utilizing content formatting macros for Confluence. But before we do that, here's a quick reminder on what the page looked like before. Really basic, really straightforward, utilizing some of the features from Confluence, but what you'll see here is the major difference that you can achieve with content formatting macros for Confluence. So first thing you'll see, of course, is the alert dialog box that's popped up and let us know that the page is still in progress. Then we have our interactive banner at the top, plenty of backgrounds that seemed excessive as I was building the page, but you can see it really does make a difference. You've got the tab functionality, so you can kind of scroll between that and the vertical option, but do check out the horizontal version as well. We've got Tooltip, so when you click that little blue eye, you get that information there. Clicking a reference takes you to the very bottom of the page with the footnote summary, and then it pops you back up to the page when you click it again. Then we've got our pop-up dialog, so we've got our joke popping up about toucans. Strolling further down, you can see how beautiful it looks when you're utilising those pixel images in the interactive banner. Then we've got our LaTeX for those maths fans amongst us, and then we're looking at our quotes here. So the BibTex reference, you can see the authors that are behind those quotes. We've got our button groups with the buttons themselves. You've got the cards displayed horizontally, and then of course finally finishing up with the BibTex summary. So there we have it. Thanks for watching. I hope this really shows how powerful the tool can be. Content formatting macros for Confluence is available on a free trial for 30 days, where you can have a play around with all of those macros and really see which ones will make a difference to your Confluence instance. Thanks again for watching. We're really looking forward to seeing how you use content formatting macros in the future. Until next time, see you soon.